Hello everyone, and welcome to Clay Formations, where I show you how I sculpt in polymer clay, or at least try. And right now I'm trying to get the epoxy out of these tubes, but for some reason it won't, and I forgot to cut the tips off. I also forgot to take the thing out that stops it from leaking out while it's in storage. It's funny how sometimes I have everything set up to record and then something like this happens. All the time. So, okay, now that we've got those things off, now we can actually pour out the epoxy and mix it up. Now I'll attach it to my sculpture jig, then add a layer of liquid Sculpey so the polymer clay will stick to it better. And here's my ever faithful assistant Ringo, always curious about what's going on. He thinks he knows how to sculpt, but he really doesn't know how. After I've got the basic shape down and covered in clay, I start blocking out how the character will look. I'll add a little more clay to the top, make him look more egg-like, and then I'll start blocking in the jawline. Looks like he needed a little thicker bottom lip. Smooth that out a little bit, blend it in. Now we'll start blocking out the areas where his eyes are going to go. I actually make the eyes out of Fimo translucent polymer clay. Then I pre-bake them, which makes it easier to sculpt around the eyes. Sculpting clay is basically an exercise in addition and subtraction. You add, you take away, you add, you take away more. And right now I'm adding a nose that's going to be destroyed later on when I add his teeth. Through my process, I really never know how these things are going to turn out. I do have a picture in my mind and I do research, but it usually never ends up exactly the way I had it in my mind. So I add and I subtract, and I'm usually just as surprised as you guys are when it's finished. Now let's use some Sculpey Primo to create the teeth. When you make your teeth, always make sure you cut it at an angle, leaving more at the front and less at the back. That way you have more room to create a gum line. It looks more realistic that way. And there they are, all done and ready to bake. And now that they are pre-baked, we can push them into the gum line. I really wanted to be totally random to where it would look like, how in the world does this guy close his mouth? Or that you'd never want to meet this guy on a dark night because you'd be afraid that he would tear your flesh apart. Now we'll start destroying that nose that I so meticulously sculpted earlier. Oh, it's all part of the process. When you push the pre-baked teeth into the clay, it almost creates its own gum line, but you still have to go in and refine it. And now I'm re-sculpting the nose. Now we'll add ears. And now I'm texturizing his skin with the texture stamps. Makes things a lot easier. And what would an egg bat be without a few warts here and there? Now I'm adding the holes to where the wings will go. Okay, let's make some wings. Those look about the right size. Whee, I'm flying. We bend the wire into the shape of the template, starting with the main arm, and then we build the fingers of the wing off from there. And there you go. Now we'll tack the wire down with UV resin. And of course, UV resin is nowhere near strong enough to hold it all together, so we have to wrap it in wire. You have to really be careful here because the slightest bump will make the resin break. So we have to be really careful wrapping this part right here so we don't... Oh, looks like we broke it. Well, let's put it back on and let's reinforce it, not just on the front, but on the other side as well. Now let's try wrapping the wire around it again. You pull that through, crimp it down on the edge, and then you can bend the wing into the shape that you would like it to be. Now we'll use the same clay that we made the teeth out of and give the edges of his wing little claws. I always find it easier to make the claws first, pre-bake them, and then add the clay. Making a wing this size, you're pretty safe not having to put anything between the fingers. If you make it any bigger, you might want to put a wire mesh in it. And there it is, ready to put into the oven. And as if by magic, another one was made. No, actually I just did it off camera. Now let's add the wings to the body. Curing it with the heat gun. Before I go any further, I think we'll make the base that Egg Bat will be sitting on. Ringo thinking that there's treats around here somewhere. Adding the battlements to the top of the castle. Marking out the brick lines. After I marked the pattern out, I had to dig the edges a little deeper. I thought I'd try the pastel powder to stain the teeth and create a better blend, and boy did it work. It worked really well. As you go through the process of making your sculpture, always keep in mind how you're going to paint it. Because as I was making this little guy, I was thinking, man, these teeth look great, they're awesome looking. Not giving one thought to how in the world I was going to paint it when I was done. And boy did I pay the price, because it took me days to paint those teeth. The brown stain looked great on the teeth, but it didn't look too good on the gum line. So what I ended up doing was taking a red powder and blending it into the gum line and then blending the black paint up to the red, and it worked out pretty well. Adding some UV resin to the eyes. And some gloss varnish to the teeth. And when that's all done, we'll call this guy finished. I mean Egg Batt, his name's Egg Batt. Enjoy the final shots, guys. Thanks for watching.